enforcement effort to crack down on fentanyl?
Thank you, Governor. Well, 6 years ago, we first started talking about fentanyl when we were concerned because for some reason we were seeing nationally this epidemic of overdoses by fentanyl. We saw it in the Great Lakes states, we saw it in the Northeast, we saw it in the Southeast, and we certainly saw it in the mid-Atlantic region as well. And your concern then, as it was now, is that this is so potent that it can take lives immediately and people not realize the impact that it'll have. And the only thing that's different, at the time, Texas did not, we were a transit state. We're certainly for the rest of the nation, as fentanyl comes in, as goes Texas, so goes the rest of the nation. Mexican cartels, this is clearly their job. They've been exploiting this particular thing. But one thing has changed in recent years is that the Mexican cartels have figured another way to distribute fentanyl. It's not just in powder form, and not just in laced cocaine with methamphetamine. Just, hey, why not counterfeit pills? You know, why not Xanax? You know, why not, hydromorphone, Oxycontin? Very simple. And by doing it, and they don't care how many milligrams they put in a dose, as long as they're making money. And by doing it, they're able to make a lot of money. And of course, from a Texas standpoint, now you've got kids, and thank you, Governor, for talking to kids and the families. And if you're a parent or grandparent, talk to your kids, absolutely, because it's worse than Russian roulette in terms of statistically. You know, they're more likely to die from a counterfeit, pill produced in Mexico than anything else if they take it. And we're concerned about that. I know you're concerned about that. But that's the difference right now. Mexican cartels are doing this. They're putting it on our streets. And unknown kids, unwilling kids are taking it, and it only takes one to kill. I think DEA came up with what one pill kills. I think there's an appropriate, and hopefully the parents and grandparents are picking this up and they're having these conversations with kids. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your leadership.
And now a forensic scientist at DPS, right here at the lab that we're at, Jennifer Hatch.
Thank you, Governor Abbott, for coming to the laboratory today to see what we do. I also want to thank you and the legislature as well for the resources that you've provided us to ensure that we can continue to provide our services for the state of Texas. So it's important for the public to get to look at the work that we do here at the Crime Lab and the impact that it does have on the community. To give a little more background into fentanyl, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is similar to other opiates that you're used to hearing about, such as heroin, morphine, oxycodone, but the biggest difference is fentanyl is so much more potent than these other opiates. Fentanyl is approximately 30 times more potent than heroin and 60 times more potent than morphine. So that means it doesn't take very much fentanyl for you to feel an effect from it as a user. So only 2 milligrams of fentanyl, which I have in here, could be considered a lethal dose. For comparison, 60 milligrams of heroin, which is demonstrated here, is a lethal dose. So you can see how little it takes. All of our laboratories across the state of Texas are seeing an increased number of cases that do contain fentanyl. While fentanyl isn't present in everything that we analyze, it is much more prominent today than it was even 5 years ago. So as an example, in 2019, we reported fentanyl or a fentanyl analog in about 94 cases. In 2022, through the end of June, so just those 6 months alone, we've already reported about 513 cases. So that's a pretty significant increase. The majority of fentanyl that we do see today is pressed into these tablets that look like legitimate pharmaceuticals. Traditionally, these tablets are made to look like oxycodone, as shown here, hydrocodone, or even Xanax. And I can say that these counterfeit tablets look like legitimate pharmaceuticals. Even a scientist examining these daily usually cannot tell the difference until we do our analysis. So this means also that most users don't realize that what they're getting is a counterfeit tablet containing fentanyl as well. So you can see how easily this does become a very dangerous issue. So increasing this awareness about fentanyl is helping to save lives. So I just want to thank you again, Governor Abbott, and to the Texas Legislature for your efforts to help bring this crisis into the forefront.
Thank you, and thank you for what you do every day. And I got to meet the other people who work in the lab. And once again, I want to express my gratitude for the men and women who work in this lab, who put their lives on the line to work with the law enforcement officers to make sure that we as a state are going to be more effective in cracking down on the pushers of fentanyl across this region and across our state. We'll take a few questions. Go ahead.
Governor Abbott, Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin has said he's asked you repeatedly to return to Uvalde to speak with grieving family members. You have not returned yet. Do you have plans to return, and when would that be?
Sure. So listen, I've been there multiple times to Uvalde for multiple purposes. Sometimes for public presentations, sometimes for grieving events and different things like that. And I would be going many more times. We've been setting up a lot of facilities to make sure that we're providing every possible avenue of caring for the victims, such as a $5 million center to provide mental health care as well as other types of health care. But also importantly, working to make sure that they're going to know all the facts of everything that happened in what led to the loss of their family member. Knowing what happened is the first step toward being able to go through the grieving process